Deep within the woods of the Moldovan countryside, a fire illuminates the sky. A horde of hooded men bearing crosses and torches surround a man and a woman. The man and the woman are tied to a large log above kindling and are being condemned to death for their crimes against God and man. As an iron maiden is slowly being lowered onto the young woman's face, she screams into the darkness, "A curse upon you and all of your families. You will rue the day." With a whack, the Iron Maiden is hammered down into the woman, and the fire roars beneath her. She is burnt alive. The men are silent, but the wind is violent. The curse is now upon him, and this woman will rise again. This is It Records. Welcome back to the podcast, all you creatures of the night. I am one of your hosts, Peter Hansen here. Welcome you back over the airway. No, it's me, Matt, back from out of the shadows.
Okay, so I feel really silly. I didn't know Moldova was a real country.
Me either.
Did I throw you off with my Yeah.
So we have that.
Like, I remember them saying it in the movie, and I'm like, oh, that's made up, right?
Yeah, like,
And I feel really bad. Because I like geography, and I feel like I should know more countries than I do. And I did not know Moldova was a real country.
It's in, like, Central Eastern Europe, right? Over yonder?
It's right next to Romania. Said that wrong. And Ukraine.
Okay.
Oh shit, no way.
Well, the more you know. Welcome to the It Records podcast, Geography Corner. We learn all about Eastern European countries. Well, thanks for tuning in. And in case you didn't pick up on it from our intro, this week on the podcast, we did the 1960 film Black Sunday, directed by Mario Bava. That's the most common name, is Black Sunday, but it also goes by the name Revenge of the Vampire and the Mask of Satan. So if you know any of those names, but the American name is Black Sunday.
Not since Dracula stalked the earth has the world known so terrifying a day or night.
It is I who renounce you, and in the name of Satan I place a curse upon you.
Black Sunday is like no motion picture you've ever seen. There are those who believe and those who do not. But both must know the suspense, the shock of meeting the living dead and of bringing the dead to life.
Look into my eyes. Embrace me. You will die, but I can bring you pleasures mortals cannot know.
Black Sunday, the most terrifying motion picture you'll ever see. Satan, wearing strange robes and fighting with all the furies of Hades, arouses the countryside to a frenzy of black terror.
I'm telling you, those Italian movies back then, they just always had like three fucking different titles all the time. I don't know why.
Yeah. I guess because it's... I feel like, well, what about Black Sunday? I don't know what the actual title... I wish I could see it. Oh, no, I have it here. Like, what the actual title was in Italian. And then they probably didn't literally translate it into English, and they just named it something different originally. but it like literally translates
Yeah.
to Mask of Satan. Yeah, that's what it is. It literally would translate to Mask of
Okay.
Satan, but it's Black Sunday for some reason. La Maschera del Domino is the Italian name.
Yeah, that sounds correct. GK,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know any Italian.
Yeah, and it's good you mentioned that. This is an Italian film that we did in 1960, and it's Mario Bava's directorial debut. And
And our first movie by him, I believe. I don't think we've done another Bava film, which is... I feel like he's pretty influential in, like, older horror, especially with Dario Argento.
yeah, if you go to the Wikipedia page IMDb page about Bava, like the second line is he kickstarted the giallo film genre, otherwise known as the modern slasher film. So that's like on IMDb they're giving Bava credit for that.
Oh, I didn't think he started that.
Mm-hmm. Or he one of the
That's crazy.
pioneers.
I knew he was prominent. Yeah, I knew he was prominent in it, but I didn't know he was like one of the first.
I think, yeah, this movie was like the third of the horror genre in that area, since I read that Mussolini had banned it during his dictatorship, which I didn't know. So it's definitely pretty new for the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it was banned at the time for, I mean, there's a lot of like implied gruesome elements to the film and sexual innuendo, I guess, for the time, 1960. But there's still a pretty, I think, intense scene at the very beginning, which I kind of mentioned in the opening crawl, the Iron Maiden.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, even that wouldn't it not be the Iron Maiden, because the Iron Maiden was that
It's like,
big.
yep. That's like the
thing.
full body. And it was just the mask in Black Sunday.
Yeah, this was like it was a mask, and I was just like, oh shit! Like they like put a mask with spikes on her face and like hit it with like a fucking sledgehammer, and I was like, oh shit!
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah,
pretty intense.
It got real.
Yeah. That's in like the first minute of the film.
And I think for the time, like the special effects looked pretty good. Like the fake body. I don't know. They made it look like it looked good.
Realistic.
Yeah, like I was surprised because I would assume like this movie had like no budget.
Yeah. Real quick before I'll touch on that point. For any of the listeners who don't know what Black Sunday is, it's about a vengeful witch, I'll say, /vampire. Vengeful witch /vampire, and her fiendish servant
Yeah.
who return from the grave and begin a bloody campaign to possess the body of the witch's beautiful look-alike descendant, with only the girl's brother and a handsome doctor standing in the way. So that's the general gist of the movie. But to your point about the special effects looking good and the budget, I had the budget. I think it's like 87,000 American dollars today was the budget for the film.
Okay.
But Bava was kind of like handed this film. Let's see. Yeah, that's right. He's kind of handed this film because he was for the company that did the film. Oh, I have it in here somewhere. I think it's Galatea Film, Galatea. He was like a cinematographer, editor for like the 50s. He did films with like Jacques Tourneau in France, and movies that people left and would like clean them up and edit them, but was never credited as like the director. And the studio, as like a favor to him, said, hey, your first directorial debut, you pick it and we'll fund it. So it wasn't like a huge budget, but it was kind of like,
Oh, wow.
hey, thanks for doing this. What do you want to do as your movie?
Finally paid off.
Yeah, right?
That's pretty cool. That's a cool way of like giving back to him for like giving him any credit.
Yeah. He would come in for like all these movies that directors would leave or the studio thought was bad, and he would like do reshoots and edits and everything. The Giant of Marathon was the film that he was a directorial assistant on with Jacques Tourneur. He did work on The Immortal Monster and I, Vampira, 1957.
No idea what any of those are.
Italian, French films in the 50s.
Yeah, you know, I just missed out on that craze, I guess.
Yeah. Well, then he chose Black Sunday for his film, which is based off the book that he used to read his kids at night, I guess. Or he would read to his children. It's like called Vi, I think, VIY. I forget the author's name, but...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
What a strange pick for your kids. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, I just love reading a story to them, and they just fall right asleep, you know, sleep nice and soundly after I read this story.
Yeah, they're reading this terrifying story of a witch/vampire back from the grave.
That would come back to take her vengeance.
Yeah. Like a terrifying story for kids.
Okay. So let me get this straight. She vows to come back and, you know, spread all this terror on her brothers, the one who sentenced her to death, on all of his descendants, right? Mm-hmm. Why does she want to do that to her own descendants?
I think she'd want to do it to her descendants. I took it is because she was dabbling in dark magic and they weren't. They're more of like the cross. And then it was her brother who sentenced her to death. So she was just a curse on your house for doing this to me. But then it was also she had to wait until a lookalike descendant came about so she could possess her body and then come back from the grave.
Which is really weird because, like, they said, like, 100 years before, like, another lookalike happened and then, like, the earthquake happened and destroyed the cathedral or whatever that she was buried in.
Yeah.
And then 100 years later brought us to the events of the movie. So where this handsome doctor is studying with an older doctor, I guess. I don't know what was going on.
Yeah, he's like a traveling doctor, Gorbachev or Gorba. I think that's one of the old prime ministers of Russia. But I think that was his name. Okay.
That is, yes.
And
or we're close at least.
and then the practicing doctor underneath him, the younger guy, they come upon the witch's resting place, which I thought the film did a really good job of that ominous atmosphere. That was like German expressionism. If you kind of know that style, like jagged landscapes and sceneries that are really kind of over the top and like using light and shadow to kind of make everything kind of seem eerie. You didn't know what was lurking in the shadow. For a black and white film of the time, I mean, I thought that was a interesting technique, I guess, from Bava. And do you guys think, I don't know, how did you guys perceive Asa, which was like the witch character? Witch vampire, what is she? What did you guys take that she was?
She was a blend of both.
Yeah.
She was what?
She was both.
She was both. Yeah, that is really confusing because I guess, I don't know, in a different lore, I guess like a vampire can have like different powers because like there's no like set powers of vampires. There's just like, of course, like the ones that kind of like Bram Stoker. Why can I not pronounce names right now?
Mm-hmm.
You know, the author of Dracula.
Mm-hmm.
Set, and then like a lot of those movies and books followed those, but I feel like other countries kind of like have their own lore about vampires.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's just like a vampire with just like a different lore around it.
That's fair. The ability, because she sucks blood. That she does that.
She drains life, which was weird.
Yeah.
I guess like you could do that with like taking blood, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But it was like a different vampire power.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just convinced she had the best of both worlds.
She's just like a super demon.
Yeah, there's no real like category she really fits into because she has some of those characteristics of a vampire. There was the bat that was in that cave where she's dwelling. The crosses, she fears the cross, but she was also casting spells. She could summon like zombies, which was her lover guy, her servant that she rose from the dead.
That was an old thing too, because like there was like a Bela Lugosi movie that like did that too with zombies. I'm like, that doesn't happen in vampire movies anymore.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So.
And it's weird because like I think there's also lore of them turning into werewolves, but then there's like them also being afraid of werewolves. I don't know. There's a whole lot going on.
Yeah. There's the idea that they can also be werewolves, or it's like the vampire's number one enemy is a vampire.
Yeah.
Like there's a battle between them.
That's like from Underworld? Is that Underworld?
That's like the whole
thing.
Plot of Underworld is like the Lycans versus the vampires.
I remember the whole werewolf thing because I watched the Van Helsing movie with Hugh Jackman.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember there being like a little tidbit about them hating werewolves or whatever.
Yeah. So that's part of the lore, but she there was not really a werewolf, but there was a huge dog, right? The hounds.
Yeah. They couldn't quite figure out where it was coming from.
Mm-hmm. Which this movie also uses the trope of the paintings are alive sort of a thing. I guess that gothic trope where it seems like the paintings are moving and actually become a secret passageway that leads to a crypt.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's like their eyes are moving.
Yeah.
Scooby-Doo or something.
Yep. Which, mini side tangent, I can't remember the movie name, but there's a movie coming on Netflix, I believe, starring Jake Gyllenhaal. That's kind of a psychological thriller horror about these paintings that come alive, that have some part of the soul of the art.
Now.
It's out.
I thought.
You've got my attention.
Is it?
But I know what you're talking about, but I can't remember what it's called.
Yeah, and so it has that same idea that's used in Black Sunday. The paintings are watching you, and they'll come alive and grab you in the middle of it.
Velvet Buzzsaw. In case any of you out there were wondering.
What is it?
Velvet Buzzsaw.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
That's right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I'm going to check that one out soon. And this movie critically received well on many different lists as being, well, as I said, Bava's best, who's known for Italian horror films in the 60s, and kind of adding to that gothic Italian horror films of the 60s and helping start the giallo feel, is still a lot of people draw influence from this film. And I watched this movie and came to this conclusion, I guess, just watching it. Tim Burton, I guess, it's one of his favorite films, I read. And I can totally see that now. Tim Burton style compared to Black Sunday. It's very much that same sort of ominous, shadowy.
Oh, yeah. Especially with his earlier work, for sure.
Mm-hmm. And Sleepy Hollow. He even uses the Iron Maiden in Sleepy Hollow for Johnny Depp's mother's murder scene. The Iron Maiden kills his mother, who was condemned a witch, is a direct reference to Black Sunday for when this witch was killed with the mask. I know a lot of other films apparently use reference to this film. Mm-hmm.
Have you guys seen a lot of Bava films, or was this your first introduction to him?
It wasn't my first.
It's definitely my first.
Oh, sorry, Lindsay. What'd you say?
No, that's all I had to say. Go ahead.
It wasn't my first introduction, but I haven't seen a lot from Bava. I think
Yeah, either have I.
Is it the Bay of Blood?
Bay of Blood.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one. I actually have that one. I like that one a lot.
Mm-hmm.
That's very gory. Then there's Black Sabbath, which I confuse these two a lot, Black Sunday and Black Sabbath, even though there's like 13 years separating them, and like one's in color. And I think that one's like short films, like it's an anthology movie.
Okay,
I think these are the only three I've seen by him.
Mm-hmm.
No, I was gonna say, did he do that zombie movie? But then I was thinking that wasn't him. Do you know what I'm talking about? That, like, it's a long story with like, but basically like the Italian, like, whoever made movies in Italy, they just like would cash in with like American movies. So like Dawn of the Dead was like called like Zombie 2,
yes,
or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so like they just like there was like a zombie, and like I don't know, it's super confusing. I like don't understand it. I just think it's really funny because they just did everything they could to like make money. Like, okay, here I found it. Dawn of the Dead was called Zombie, and then like this person directed Zombie 2, and like it had nothing to do with Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah, it was just an extension. Was there anything in particular with this movie that jumped out to you guys, that I don't know you found particularly, I don't know, that you enjoyed about the film, how the story was told, or the directing of it? Anything in particular that you saw? I'll let you run with that, but I was just curious.
The opening scene really grabbed my attention. It definitely pulled me in. I was like, okay, I want to see where this is going. It kind of just started right in the middle of things, so I liked that. And it made me, I liked the quick pace of it, so I think with that, it was a well-told story. Yeah.
For me, like, I wasn't super into a lot was going on with this movie. I thought it was just really slow. I like found myself like getting distracted very easily watching it. I think, I don't know, it's probably just more on me of just having a bad attention span at the time. Because usually I'm pretty good about it, but lately not so much. Like the opening scene I thought was cool and like definitely had my attention, and then it just like came to like a complete stop for like an hour. Like it was just like not a whole lot going on. It was like a lot of like just like stereotypical stuff that we've seen in movies like over and over, like anyone could write this movie kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And he was, at least like you said, like he was really good about like with the special effects, like they were pretty good for the time, and his use of shadows were cool. But I think for me, like the way that the story was told was just like so old fashioned that I just got really tired of it.
Yeah.
What about you, Matt?
Yeah, I really like this style. As I said, it's Tim Burton-esque, and especially with Sleepy Hollow. I know he painted like the backgrounds also black, so it was in black and white, so it made it look even more shadowy and gloom and doom. And I appreciate that, and I agree with what you said, Pete. The opening scene kind of grabs your attention, but then like for the next hour, what it does, it is kind of slow paced, and it's a lot of like the score. I feel like like you get that organ score over like slow panning cameras to like the crypts and in like the hallways, so I could see where it would drag on you, but I think he was trying to add to that atmosphere, but the pacing definitely goes slow after that first initial shock of the murder at the beginning. But I really like the style. I didn't really think the acting was anything great or the plot was anything spectacular, like you said. But I watched the dubbed version, and that was pretty great.
I also watched the dubbed version.
I don't know what I watched. There's like 10 versions.
Yeah.
So I think it was called Mask of Satan. So it was on Daily Motion. I don't know.
The Mask of Satan. Yeah.
I mean, was it in English?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was, yeah, that was the dubbed version.
where you could totally tell
That makes
the mouse did not line up at all at that.
Yes, there was a lot of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was surprised because I watched it on Shudder that it was a dubbed version, because usually they have the original language on that
Mm-hmm.
website. Because like when I watched, oh god, what the fuck did I watch? I watched like a recent like a different Italian movie. It was like Black and Blood Lace is what I watched.
Okay.
And I forgot it was originally is another like giallo film, like, you know, black gloves kind of murder thing going on, little switcheroos going on. And I watched it in Italian, and I like forgot that like a part of me like wanted to watch it dubbed, because like I think giallo definitely has like an appeal with the dub version. They kind of like how Godzilla movies like are really great to me dubbed, rather than watching it in Japanese.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get that. It adds another layer to the film to see the.
It adds another film of another layer of entertainment. Like
Mm-hmm.
it holds a special place in my heart.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned the Shudder version. Usually they have like the original cut or whatever of the film. Well, the American version, I read that most people see, I guess if you're here, is slightly altered from the original version in Europe. There's like 3 minutes or so, I think, difference. It's not too much. But one thing that they cut out was a minor subplot that there was incest between the brother who killed his sister, the witch. Like there was supposed to be some
Oh, shit.
weird.
Did not get that at all.
Well, they kind of take out those. That's basically kind of taken out, split from the American version that we see, the dubbed one, and it was kind of kept in the Italian version in the uncut scenes.
Damn.
Yeah, I don't know if that would have changed really
so
the
that
film.
must have
at
been
all.
in the beginning then.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's why he killed her, and I'm guessing her lover was the servant.
Okay. No, I was gonna say it just adds like another layer of like of her being a monster, because it's such like, you know, such a taboo subject.
Right. Yeah. Adds another layer to the witch, vampire, demon lore that she has, Asa.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
But it's funny that like the prince who like did the execution like like totally gets away with it basically. Besides that, like his like descendant like 200 years later pays the price by dying from being scared to death.
Yeah.
I just feel like we actually didn't even like talk about the events in the movie, because I think not a lot happens. It's just like them like on a carriage. They find like the coffin. She does like a little magic shit. She gets her life back or whatever. And I don't even know what happens to that after that point.
No,
like I just feel like
that's pretty much it.
yeah, it's like a lot of walking around, a lot of people dying. Not even a lot of people, like 4 people dying.
Yeah. And the dog, though.
The dog
that happened
dies.
in
That's
this
true. 2
movie.
dogs die.
Yeah.
That's sad.
Which was messed up.
Even back then, it was a trope.
Mm-hmm. So before we wrap it up with Defend and Destroy from all of us, I thought I'd throw a little trivia that I read when this premiered in the United States. It was part of a double feature. Do you guys know what it was featured with?
Yes.
Rosemary
But not because I already
Baby.
knew that.
No, not Rosemary's Baby. Did you say it, Lindsay?
Peter, are you done guessing?
Yeah, I'm done guessing.
Okay. It was featured alongside Little Shop of Horrors.
Yeah.
Oh, the one with
For
Jack
all you out
Nicholson?
there.
I don't know.
That
I don't think
know.
he's in Little Shop of Horrors.
Yes, he is.
Jack Nicholson?
He's in the original one.
Get
Is in the original Jack. Look it up right
Get the
now.
hell out of
No
here. Get the
way.
hell out of here.
No, he's fucking in it. You doubt me? You doubt my power?
Earlier, you didn't know Moldova was a country.
That's not about movies.
He's at the dentist. That's what I'm seeing right now.
Jack Nicholson. I type it in. His name pops up.
Fucking told you.
There he is. Weird.
Yeah, he's young in that movie. I haven't seen it. I just knew he was in it.
But he's like a
Wilbur
background character,
Force.
right?
Oh yeah, he's like, isn't that like Bill Murray's role in like the remake?
Wilbur
Like,
Force is what they
essentially.
say his name is.
Right, because he said he's in the scene with the dentist, which Bill Murray does in the '80s one,
Yep.
and like Steve Martin is like
Mhm.
the creepy dentist or whatever.
Yep. Well,
That movie's great. That's a good movie.
yeah. Well, the more you know. Learning so many things on the podcast.
I like how hard you doubted me.
Yeah. I was like, no way. You're thinking of Chinatown.
I was there too.
You think of... That was around. Oh no, that was that '70s?
Yeah, because that's Polanski, right? No, who did? Is that
Yeah.
Polanski? Did Chinatown?
Yeah, it is. That creep
Yeah.
making good movies, bastard.
All right, who wants to take Defender Destroy first?
Lindsay.
Alright, let's have it. I think I'll actually give this one a hearty defend. I liked the story. I liked the look-alike descendant storyline. I liked the moody atmosphere. Like I said, the opening scene is really what grabbed my attention. And for me, I didn't think it dragged at any point. I thought it was a tight hour and a half. Well told, well written. So for me, it's a thumbs up.
All right.
Take it away,
Yeah.
one of you.
I'll echo Lindsay's sentiments. I chose it this week. I defend Black Sunday. I really enjoy this style. I had never actually seen it, known about it forever, and not the Black Sunday disaster movie from like the 70s, but this one.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really fun to watch, to see this film that's regarded as Bava's best directorial movie, and to see all the movies that I've watched like growing up that I kind of liked in horror, or like the Tim Burton movies that I like his style, kind of being referenced back to this movie. So I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun, and it looked really cool, and they really created an atmosphere to the film. I like those gothic type horror movies, and even Asa's face when she comes back from the grave, and she's got the holes in her face, and she's just like staring down the camera, I think still looks really weird and creepy even today, that makeup. So I defend Black Sunday.
Alright, this was kind of hard for me because I found it really boring.
Mm-hmm.
I like Bava's style, especially when his later, like, granted, I've only seen 3 movies of his, but I really like it, like, Come to Terms with Bay of Blood, which is like fucking like 16 years after this movie. It's like in like the late 70s. And I feel like he wouldn't have gotten that point without this movie. So like the fact that I want to say Destroy with this movie, it's like I'm thinking like, oh man, like then he would never have been able to make the other movies. But I found it really boring. Like it's got little redeeming qualities for me. I feel like the only reason I would recommend watching this if you actually really like black and white horror movies, because otherwise you're just gonna be bored. Like, or if you're just like, I need to watch all of Mario Bava's movies, then yeah, you gotta watch this one.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, you know the story pretty much. Like, even though it's like so weird, like you could just like, you know what it is once it's kind of going.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
So is that
So is that a defend or a destroy?
That is a
that's a destroy? Okay, make it sure.
It is, yeah. It's like I begrudgingly did it because I was thinking of it like a very logical way. It's like, well, if he didn't make this movie, he wouldn't have been able to make his other movies. But
I still don't like it.
I still found it really boring.
Gosh.
It's a well balanced destroy.
All right. Well, that's a wrap here at the It Records podcast. Get at us on Twitter and Facebook if you'd like us to watch a film that you enjoy, or have a blog idea you'd like for us to write, because we're pumping those out daily. All these blogs we have. But let us know.
Don't lie to me.
It's been a while since the blog has come out. That's true. But if you have a mini episode idea or want our thoughts on anything, let us know. All our podcasts are on anywhere you find podcasts. And we're on social media. So that's a wrap for me. I'm Matt Johnson. Until next time, I'll remain in the shadows.
I got nothing intelligent to say. I was hoping
Finally,
I would
he
have
admits
something,
it.
but I don't. Just you wait, I'll get you back in the next episode.